it's almost surreal that the 2021 football season's officially over. But the Los Angeles Rams are once again Super Bowl champions. It's been a while, though, since their current Warner days, since they won a Super Bowl. They've been there most recently under McVay when they lost a horrendous game to the New England Patriots. This time, they beat the Bengals 23-20. And really, I was worried for the Rams for quite a while there. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so you have to understand I could not feasibly root for the Bengals in this game. It just would not fit with my fandom. So I wanted the Rams to win this one. And all credit to the Bengals, by the way. The Bengals, I thought, played a really good game, especially opening up in the second half. In the second quarter, I thought they played well. They were a better team in the second quarter than the Rams. I thought they were a better team in the third quarter. And unfortunately, just going scoreless in the fourth quarter. The only point in the game where a team did not score in a quarter was the Bengals in the fourth quarter. Fairly uncharacteristic for their team, considering what they've done the past couple of weeks. And against Kansas City, I believe in week 17, where they scored on the final play of the game against Kansas City in the conference championship game, against Tennessee in the divisional round. It's uncharacteristic for them to go cold late in the game, but that's just what happened here. And a lot of it was the Rams defense just figuring out how to get to Joe Burrow. They got to him 7 times. And the whole narrative going into this game that it was going to be the Rams defensive line versus the Bengals offensive line was going to decide its outcome, I thought it was getting a little bit overblown. And originally I thought that was the case because for the first half or so, there really was not a lot of pressure getting to Burrow at all. And I thought the narrative was kind of just driven into the ground because of how bad this line had been against the Titans. And they really hadn't been terrible the past couple of games. But then the Rams, I think in the third quarter, just found a way to absolutely turn it on. And it went downhill for the Bengals after that point. Yeah, creative defensively. They started winning their matchups. Von Miller started going against guards instead of going against tackles and really created a lot of mayhem up front. Aaron Donald turned it on late in the game. I think he finished it with, 2 sacks? One was really a sack. One was like a chase down on Joe Burrow, but one was a full-on sack late in the game. He also had that play. I thought he was going to win MVP, honestly. He didn't. Went to Cooper Kupp, deservingly so, especially for everything he did in that final drive of the game, where he basically did everything for them, for the Rams in that final scoring drive. But Donald, that final play of the game, kind of cements his legacy, gets to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow ends up throwing the ball away, but it was a 4th down, game over. And for Donald, Donald mentioned possibly retiring. He's obviously not going to make that decision tonight. He's on such an emotional high right now. He just wants to enjoy the moment. But if he retires early, it'll be a shame because you'll see one of the great guys walk away before his prime ends. But I mean, he's done everything. I feel really good for Aaron Donald because this is a top 10 defensive player of all time who just basically completed everything he could want to do in his career. So I feel really good for him. 2 sacks in this game, and of course that final huge play at the end of the game. Von Miller, one of the best playoff performers that we know about. The ultimate Tom Brady sack artist. I've always said this. The ultimate Tom Brady sack artist in the playoffs. 2 sacks in this game here. And 3 quarterback hits. A really good performance from him on that front. Jalen Ramsey did not have a good game. I do think it was an uncalled penalty on T. Higgins. Just because you see the way Ramsey's head got yanked. I think everyone knows the play I'm talking about. The long touchdown to T. Higgins, the 75-yarder. You see Ramsey's head get yanked. I have no problem with them not calling it, really. I prefer for penalties to not be called, but I do think if we're going by the rule, that is a penalty, and it wasn't called. But, I think the Rams are fine since they ended up winning the game. Ramsey had a couple of mistakes, though. I think if we're calling it a big 3 defensively, of Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, he was the worst of the 3 in this game. Not that it matters, though, because they won. So it's not going to ultimately cause them to lose much sleep. Stafford, I thought Stafford was okay. The interception he threw in the end zone didn't really impact the team at all. That was late in the second half. It doesn't really change the outcome. The Bengals don't get any points off of that. The second interception really was not his fault. Ben Skoranek, who didn't have a good game by any stretch of the imagination. Skoranek basically just handed the ball to the defensive back. Any defensive back with decent hands is going to catch that. So I don't think Stafford played horribly. I don't think Stafford played all that well, which is why Cooper Kupp got the MVP despite, 8 receptions for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty good night. It's not a fantastic night, obviously, but it's a pretty good night. By Super Bowl MVP standards, it's probably on the lower end, but Again, like I said, Stafford, not a fantastic night. I think it probably came down to Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, the two guys who are most likely to win that award. Obviously, losing OBJ ahead of halftime was a huge blow to that offense because you see they're forced to try to get the ball more to Van Jefferson, who wasn't having a good night, to Ben Skoranek, who, as I said, didn't have a good night. Tyler Higbee's already not playing in the game, so your top tight end option isn't there. Your backup tight end ends up getting hurt in like the fourth quarter. I believe he had to put on a shoulder harness. So your third tight end, Bryson Hopkins, is getting looks. Darrell Henderson Jr. might have actually been like your second best receiving option behind Cooper Kupp when it came to healthy players in the second half. I think all of his receptions actually came in the first half though, but Henderson was one of your most effective pass catchers. So that offense was really running on thin ice, considering going into this game is surprising because we had hyped up the receiving cores for both these teams so much. And then suddenly only Cooper Kupp was the only guy who could create for the Rams. And the Bengals did a really good job neutralizing Kupp for most of this game. But to get to that final drive, that final scoring drive for the Rams, so they get that touchdown. Kupp's drawing penalties. Kupp is just getting the ball every time. And predictably, Stafford's turning the ball loose to Cooper Kupp every single play, and the Bengals just can't stop it. And this is what Coop's done, though, down the stretch. He did it against Tampa Bay. He did it against the 49ers. He just arrives when they need him to, which is why he's one of probably the best two receivers in the NFL, if not the best receiver in the NFL. So he was excellent tonight and wins the MVP deservingly so. I was going to lose my mind. Sean McVay in the running game. I understand that in order to set up the play action he wants to do, you have to be able to run the ball. But I thought they were going to lose this game because of Sean McVay's play calling. And if they had lost this game, I would have pointed to Sean McVay's play calling as a huge reason why. Because you're running the ball, for the most part, up the middle against a defensive interior for the Bengals that might be the best unit on that entire team. Their defensive line with Trey Hendrickson, B.J. Hill, DJ Reader, and Sam Hubbard might honestly be more talented and a better unit than their wide receiver room, especially when it comes to stopping the run. So I have no idea why Sean McVay was so enamored with giving Cam Akers the ball and running right up the middle, right into that. And I really like Cam Akers. I'm a huge fan of him. I loved him at Florida State. I'm a Clemson guy. I got to see him in firsthand. Cam Akers was amazing in college behind a crappy offensive line. And he's a really good player. But I felt like he should not have seen the field in the fourth quarter, or even the third quarter. Like, just should not have been on the field. He's not a good enough option in the receiving game to threaten you that way. And as a running back, he was not doing anything in this game. And it's not necessarily all his fault. The Rams' offensive line wasn't helping. The Bengals' defensive line, as I said, is really good. But the running game that's the one that I point to. Is that was so painful to watch the Rams trying to run the ball. But he ended up getting, his longest carry of the night was 8 yards, and he ended up getting it on that final drive when they were in the red zone. So I guess it paid off eventually. All the pain and suffering came through and paid off on the final drive. I guess that's how you frame that. I mean, on the other end, Joe Burrow had a good game. He didn't have a great game, but he didn't have a bad game. This has been the story of his playoffs this year. I don't think he's had a single great game this postseason. I don't think he has. He's been good. He's not been bad by any means, but he's not had a single great game this postseason. The Bengals as a whole have had some pretty good games, and McPherson's been fantastic. He's perfect this postseason. I don't think Joe Burrow had many great games this postseason. I think he made some great plays, great time plays, but I don't think as a whole, his entire games this postseason, I don't think there was an individual one I can look to and say that was a fantastic game. And this certainly was not a fantastic game for him or for this Bengals offense, frankly. Which is weird because they had contributions from everyone. It is strange that they only got 20 points in this game. When Joe Burrow, 263 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Joe Mixon threw a touchdown. He ran for 72 yards, averaging 4.8 yards per carry. That's pretty good in the circumstances, considering you're playing against a Rams defensive front with Von Miller and Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd on it. Receiving-wise, T. Higgins, 4 receptions for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 5 catches on 8 targets for 89 yards. Tyler Boyd, 5 catches for 48 yards. I mean, these are all good numbers for the offense. And their inability to really score points down the stretch is just what killed them. Like in the fourth quarter, not scoring at all. You just can't have that. And I thought for sure, when they got the ball back with under 2 minutes left, I was having deja vu. I was like, we've seen this movie before. They're going to go down. They're going to kick the field goal. We're going to go to overtime. And we thought that missed extra point where the Rams was going to kill them. I thought it was going to force overtime. The Bengals were going to win the game. Not so. They just couldn't come through in the clutch, which is something that hasn't happened to them up to this point. Joe Burrow has been clutch, and it just fell through for them when he ran into Aaron Donald on 4th down. But, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was as great of a game as some of the ones we had in the past 2 rounds of the playoffs, but it was still a really good game. Like, having a Super Bowl that hit over 20 points for both teams, where it's a 3-point game, and the team that's trailing has a chance to come back and tie it or win it with under 2 minutes remaining is a fantastic game. And we got to see all the star players play for the most part. Of course, Odell getting hurt kind of sucked, but we still got to see a fair amount of him. He was a great player, very impactful in the first half. So overall, I am pretty happy with this game, and I'm very happy with how these playoffs turned out. After what was a horrendous wild card round, the next 7 games were fantastic. This is one of the most impactful and most entertaining playoffs in recent history. And I thought this was a great game to cap it off. And I had to feel really good. You have to feel really good for the Rams. Maybe not the Rams as a whole. Maybe you don't like certain players on the Rams. That's understandable. But Eric Weddle, Andrew Whitworth, Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford. These are all guys who have been at this for a long time. And some more than others. Andrew Whitworth and Eric Weddle more so than Aaron Donald. But for these guys to get rings, and Von Miller already had one, but the other guys, I'm pretty sure none of them did. I know Eric Weddle didn't. I know Whitworth didn't. For these guys to get rings at this point in their careers in this manner is huge for them. And I'm sure Whittle's going back into retirement, and Andrew Whitworth will definitely follow him. I think Andrew Whitworth is done. I think he's happy to walk away at this point. So I feel great for the Rams because it was a huge legacy moment for a lot of these guys on this team, including Aaron Donald, to come and make that play when he did, which is something he had not done in past postseason runs. He had not done it in the playoffs in the past. He did not do that in the last Super Bowl. So to come out and do it tonight was huge for him and his legacy. So ultimately, this is a huge legacy game for a lot of these older veteran players on the Rams. And for the younger guys on the Bengals, they mostly are younger guys, there will be more opportunities for them to get back to this game. But you do have to worry. As someone like Pat McAfee used to always tell the story when they lost to the Saints in the Super Bowl, when the Colts lost to the Saints in the Super Bowl, he thought for sure they were going to be back, and they never got there again. So this is a bit worrisome for the Bengals, but you have to go in with that mentality of we're going to get back, we're going to get back. And I believe Joe Burrow will embody that, and so will guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the younger players on this roster will keep that mentality up. And the AFC next year will be a race between the Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills to get back to the Super Bowl.